As you guys know, I have been posting about my OCs and my characters for like the entire time I've been on this channel. So today, I shall be finally giving a basic rundown of my character's story. So this whole thing starts on Luxvedus, which is this planet.
Jingle, jingle, pay attention.
Yeah, it's a planet, alright? It's what you're gonna get. It's a planet. And there's these three beings that come into existence on this planet. And their names are Carmine, Valentine, and Lennon. Alright, they don't get the privilege of last names. They're too good for that. And these three, they just start ruling the planet, you know? There's nobody else living here. They're the only ones there. They're like deities, so of course they do. And so they're ruling this planet. And okay, so the jewels are, that's what they're called. Like they're crown jewels. Yeah, like, okay, pause for laughter, because you guys all should be laughing right now. Okay, thank you. I'd say like 100 or so years after they come into existence, and like 100 years is like a blink of an eye for them. A fourth jewel comes into existence, and her name is Beatrice. She's like the little kid of them all. And, you know, they start growing a population somehow. They just bring it into a whim, and these four start ruling this planet. And like maybe 100 years after they start growing their population, they start pillaging and raiding other planets, so that way they can grow their empire. And you know, this is all happening. Meanwhile, one of the planets that they have raided and put into their empire begins to flourish as well, and this planet is called Solria. Solria is run by these councils that come from different sectors or regions of this planet, and there's 7 of these council members from the different regions of this planet. And you know, they kind of meet every once in a while. They govern the place, but they also like answer, of course, to Luxvedus, and they bring whatever issues they have to Luxvedus, but mostly they're just on their own, you know? They gave all their resources to this place, but like not much else happens. And these guys, after a while, they're kind of like filthy rich, and they get a bit of a complex, and some drama starts brewing up, okay? Now, Solria is fairly magic-based planet, you know? They have some people who wield magic, some who don't, but the magic-wielding people are a little suppressed, you know? And so one of the members on this council, Noel Reyes, brings up a law that would loosen the restrictions on magic-wielding people. Some of the council members agree, Callista Hayek and Arya Marlowe, and some don't. Radim Mandel, Marielle, I forgot her last name, Ciro, and Radim believes that the magic wielders already hold too much power and should be restricted, actually, in order to keep the balance. This tension builds among the council members. They're being petty, you know, and a coup is formed amongst these people who disagree to bring down Noel. And Arya Marlowe warns Noel of this coup because they're kind of, I don't know, they've known each other for a super, super long time. And Noel decides to run away, but like begs Arya to come with her because obviously they're going to come after Arya too eventually. Arya refuses because she like clawed her way to this position and wanted to finish what she started here on this council and make sure it doesn't become completely corrupt. Daniel Hayek, who is like Callista Hayek's spouse, takes Noel's place on the council despite previous laws stating that two people from the same house couldn't be on the council. He's a little cuckoo crazy. And eventually Arya decides to run away as well, but when she finds Noel, because like obviously she wants to know if she's doing okay, she finds her with a sword to her throat. Mariel Daria, one of the members of the council, is the one who has the sword to Arya's throat, but she tells Arya that she will spare Noel's life in exchange for her silence about Noel's death. And obviously they argue a bunch. Arya tries to barter, say, oh, why don't you just kill me, just let her go. It'll be fine. We'll be chill, you know. I won't say anything. But it doesn't work, you know. Mariel kills Noel, and Arya still returns to the council. She doesn't say anything, for some reason, doesn't want to give up her position on the council. But when the council comes together for a meeting about Noel's death, because obviously she's a former council member and they want to know what happened to her, Mariel accuses Arya of her death. There's apparently enough evidence and enough people on Mariel's side, so Arya is cast out of the council, which is a pretty light punishment, and she's sort of sent to live out her days by herself. And these are all events leading up to this war that is going to happen on Solria. So an alien race called the Tenebrae are having like a revolution. Their planet is one of the ones that was taken over by the Jewels. So they're a little upset. You know, they started raiding other planets that Lux Vetus has control over. And they start destroying everything in sight, especially magic wielders, because, you know, they're the ones who work more directly for Jewels, or have more of an influence, I guess. And little do they know, Solria houses these like massive beacons for power that are the Jewels' possessions, called Orion Gems. And these are destroyed during this whole rebellion. And you know, everything magic related is pretty much destroyed, except if you're like very, very lucky. And life continues. But back on Lux Vetus, the Jewels are obviously telling people that this is just the Tenebrae going rogue, you know, taking advantage of the Lux Vetus Empire for all the good they've done. It's crazy, you know? Can't believe it. Propaganda, 1984, spiel, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, Beatrice, the younger Jewel, is kind of buying into this. She's kind of the Jewels' lab rat. She still has power and influence, but like not as much. And she's a little ignorant, a little bubbly. But she sees past this a little, and she's like, okay, what's going on here? This doesn't look like people just going crazy. I mean, it does, but it also looks a little bit like something else. So she does some digging, and she figures that it was an actual rebellion that happened on Solria. And she figures out what the Lux Vetus Empire has been doing, what she's been doing, what the Jewels have been doing. And so she decides to run away. She decides to get out of there because she doesn't have enough power and influence to, fix this, but she can at least get away from it. Now, 182 years later, on Solria, it's become like a ghost of what it once was. There's only this one huge city, Aratus, which is protected by a dome, sealing it from the outer world in case, the Tenenbride come back. They sort of live in fear of that. There are 3 sector cities that lie underneath it, simply known as Sector 1, Sector 2, and Sector 3. There are names for some of, the other corners and towns that lie in those sectors, but there isn't really, a revolving name. It's just the sectors, Beatrice used to own this world when she was one of the jewels of the Lux Vetus Empire, but since her failure to protect the world from the Tenenbride, she's been banished. Or at least that's what the jewels are telling people. No. Oh, no. No, she totally didn't run away. This is just, her wrongdoing. Yep. Solria is kind of an outlier now. Still technically part of the Lux Vetus Empire, but they just kind of ignore it since it doesn't really provide any benefit. Also, it kind of reminds them of Beatrice, and they low-key haven't worked through that trauma. They're all cuckoo crazy still. They don't work through anything. Okay, so when Beatrice ran away, she actually ran away to Solria because she is a magic wielder. All the jewels are, but she's a little more powerful. She's been studying, she's been honing, and she figures, hey, I can try and reverse this wrong. I can go back in time. I can get the Orion gems back, and I can make Solria back to what it once was. Because this is kind of my fault. And so she's been doing this for quite some time now, actually, looping every time something goes wrong. But on this time loop 465, she decides to find some help. She does. She finds Gabriel Reyes, a descendant of Noel Reyes from the council, who's a miserable man, who offers his help after finding her collecting scraps in a junkyard, which is obviously a little concerning, considering she looks like she's still in high school. And this guy's 38, 40? I don't know. I haven't decided. She also finds Atlas Castro, who wants to prove himself that he could do something as important as his brother, who's a big war hero. She also finds Lorraine, who is so kind-hearted. She'd do almost anything to help her world. And for a quick buck, she's super poor. They collect each gem until they finally have all of them, going back and forward in time, getting all of them. But when she goes to put them back where they belong, an android shows up and snatches the crystals away. When the android speaks, it speaks in Valentine's voice, because there's a little voice monitor on there, voice module. I don't know. The android with Valentine's voice tells her that she's been watching her collect the crystals and would welcome her back to Lux Vetus as long as she left behind her little friends and, gave up the crystals. Beatrice accepts, oddly, as long as she can say goodbye. Lorraine refuses to talk to her, obviously, but allows Beatrice's final gift, a vial of her blood, which would help Lorraine make her siren song, because she's kind of a siren. She's a singer, her voice has magical powers, and Beatrice's divine blood would make that stronger. Gabriel gives her a half-hearted goodbye because he was already miserable, and he just lost his mentee/daughter figure. But her talk with Atlas is a little longer. She has a plan, which she quickly explains to Atlas, and he accepts. Her plan is to return to Lux Vetus, find out where the gems are going to be kept, and then send a signal to Atlas via a spell, telling him to come rescue her. They would return the gems to their rightful place and then, like, run away to the sectors or some other planet. This actually works somehow, but Atlas is killed by Valentine just as Beatrice finishes the sigil to teleport them back to Solria. She takes his body and buries him in a meadow amongst the flowers, where they kind of met. They were best friends, you know. It's a little sad. Before putting the gems back, she decides to visit Lorraine, who still sings at her job, which is like, I don't know, some like dance hall. Lorraine pulls her backstage after her performance to talk with Beatrice because she thought she was dead. But Beatrice talks with her and says her plan, which would be to put the gems back and run away. Lorraine obviously demands that she comes with her, and Beatrice hesitantly accepts. What they don't know is that no one, not even a divine being, could withstand that level of magical power from the crystals. Beatrice figures it out, but doesn't tell Lorraine. So she makes the sigil to put the gems back in like a thick forested area, Lorraine at her side. But before she puts the final gem on the sigil, she gives like a little speech to Lorraine, telling her, "Oh, you've been the best thing to ever happen to me. Oh, I'm so sad. Oh, whoa." Lorraine obviously tries to grab Beatrice's hand, yank her back. She doesn't want to lose her, but only barely grazes her fingers before the spell is cast, and Beatrice is like beamed up in a ray of magical energy. Beatrice wakes up and finds herself in like a void, and like the gems are surrounding her. She's now like the keeper, I guess, of the gems for all time, because there's no safer spot than somewhere nobody can reach it. Lorraine, however, is still in that forest alone. That's like the main plot of the story. I'll get into the tinier details, or like who is keeping these gems all this time, in another video if you guys would like be interested. So like you guys should totally flood the comments saying, oh I'm so interested, because you should be. Okay, so that's about it. See y'all later.